Well, friends, the enemy tried to steal my focus, but let me tell you how Jesus helped me find it again. I got a question for you today. Are you awake? Yes. Are you awake? Yes. Now, I'll be honest, there's some times in my life where I struggle to stay awake. One of them is every Friday when we do family movie night. See, in my family movie night is a blast, and it takes us like 45 minutes of the five of us to figure out which movie we're gonna watch, but then we figure that out. And then after we figure out what movie we're gonna watch, then we kind of debate on when we're gonna start the movie. But it doesn't matter if we start the movie at 12 noon or 12 midnight, 5 minutes into the movie, Chuck Mingo is out, asleep. And that's just the thing. My family knows that. Now, the most embarrassing time this happened, though, was actually not on a Friday on our couch, but it was actually at the Aronoff Center at a play. Spent big money, took my wife to go see The Tempest. Any Shakespeare fans in the house? I love Shakespeare. And so this is the thing. I went and I was looking at the play. I was watching the play. And then the next thing I remember, I got elbowed right in my side. Because not only had I fallen asleep at the play, but it was in one of those small playhouses, you know what I'm talking about? And I was snoring so loudly that my wife had to wake me up or we were about to get kicked out of The Tempest. I was the Tempest in The Tempest. And so I remember my wife saying to me, Chuck, you have to stay awake. Are you awake? So I'll ask you again, are you awake? Yes. Are you awake? Yes. See, here's the thing. The enemy wants to steal your focus, and the way he does that is by lulling you to sleep. You have an enemy that wants you to fall asleep to the plot in your own story. That's what he wants for you. And yet, we got to figure out how he does that. So I want to tell you about a condition called spiritual ADD, because that's exactly how the enemy lulls us to sleep. Addictions, distractions, and discouragement. That's how the enemy tries to lull us to sleep. Let me tell you one of the best decisions I ever made, and make it every week, is to step into a group where I am in a recovery process with other men who are helping me to live healthy when it comes to sexuality. It's the best decision I've ever made in my life. And every time I go into that group, every time I'm with those men, I'm reminded that the vision for my life is to stay awake. Again, I'll ask you, are you awake? Yes. God wants you to be awake. And what happens with addictions is addictions are basically sleeping pills that make us fall asleep. They make us fall asleep to feelings that might be uncomfortable, but feelings that God wants to use. They make us fall asleep to relationships that God is using in our lives. They will make us fall asleep to the purpose that God has for our lives. And I'm telling you that Jesus has come to say to you and to me to wake up. Wake up. But if he can't get you through addictions, he'll try to get you through distractions. I'll never forget, somebody told me this. They said, the enemy doesn't have to make you bad as long as he can keep you busy. As long as he can keep you distracted, a mile wide on all kinds of things, but an inch deep. As long as he can make you run after the next shiny toy, then the enemy can keep you right where he wants you. If you are dispersed and distracted, your life won't have the potency and the power that Jesus designed for it to have. Again, I'll ask you the question, are you awake? Yes. But if he can't get you through addictions, if he can't get you through distractions, then he'll try to get you through discouragement. I wonder, is there anybody here who's doing something new in your life? Anybody starting something new? New job, new season, new business. I'm starting something new. Am I the only one that feels like every day I'm either the hero or the goat? And it's really hard to have an in-between, right? You know, because here's what the thief will tell you. The thief will say to you and to I, your failure is final. That mistake, you'll never recover from it. That failure, you'll never get back up again. But where the enemy and the thief tells you your failure is final, Jesus says, no, your failure is fuel. He will use the low points of your life. He will use the disappointments. He will use that failure to give you something you can't get any other way. In the midst of an enemy and a thief that wants to steal your attention, this is what Jesus says. Ephesians 5 says it this way. It says, wake up, O sleeper. Rise from the dead and Christ will shine on you. How do we combat spiritual ADD? We wake up to the reality that Christ is shining in our lives. And then it says, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. There is a way to walk unwise, and there is a way to walk in wisdom. If we want to stay awake, we have to walk wisely, making the most of every opportunity, it says, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. Jesus is saying to you today, he's saying to all of us today, wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up, because there is a life that is so full, and it's a life that he has for you. I was listening to a podcast, and they were asking the question, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self? Now, I got to tell you, I love being with you guys because I am not 25 anymore. I know you're surprised. I know I look 25, but no, I'm not 25 anymore, right? And I was thinking about that question. What is the advice that I would tell my 25-year-old self? Would it be, hey, this is a great opportunity to grow friendships? Yes, that's important. Hey, this is a great opportunity to build practices and habits that are good for your life. Absolutely. And of those practices and habits, here's the number one advice I'd give my 25-year-old self. If you do nothing else, build the practice of waking up daily to your life with God, to who you are in God, and to the purpose that God has for your life. So I want to give you a workout. One of the things I've learned in recovery, we call it a wake up workout. These are things that I do daily to wake up so that I'm not lulled to sleep by spiritual ADD. And the first is I wake up to gratitudes. I wake up to thankfulness. I think gratitude is the most powerful way to see God's grace in your life. If you want to know if God is active in your life, take the time to just sit down and think about what you have to be thankful for. I'll tell you, even on the worst days of my life, I have had things to be thankful for. Because on the worst days of my life, I've not been alone. On the worst days of my life, there's been sustaining grace for me. And so when I wake up to gratitude, I wake up to this idea that, God, you are faithful in my life. Gratitude is a part of that, but I also need affirmations. There are some things that I say to myself, not because I believe them all the time, but actually because I struggle to believe them. There are things I need to remember about what God says about me. One of my favorite ones is this: it is not too late for me to be the man that God seeks in me. I just got to say that to myself. Somebody maybe need to hear that tonight. It is not too late for you to be the woman that God seeks in you. It is not too late for you to be the man that God seeks in you. It is not too late for you to be the leader, the husband, the father, the friend, the student that God sees in you, the artist that God sees in you. It is not too late. I need those affirmations. And then here's the third thing. Part of my wake up workout is I have to wake up in relationship. I call somebody every day to process where I'm at. Because there's nothing more powerful than getting outside of my own head. Because what the enemy wants to do is lull me to sleep to thinking that only what I'm thinking is reality and truth. When I get outside of myself and actually in submission to people who get to speak into my life, it helps me to come alive. So again, I'll ask you the question, are you awake? Are you awake? Jesus is saying to you today, wake up, O sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. Wake up to the life you were created for. There is a role that you were meant to play in this world. There is a plot that is designed for you. There is a God who is for you. He has so much more for you. That's why Jesus says in John 10:10, I have come. Forget the thief. Forget the thief. We know the thief strategy, spiritual ADD. But Jesus said, I have come to give you life and for you to have it more abundantly. So I want you to do three things. I want you to wake up and realize that God has a life that you're designed for. I want you to choose that life. I want you to live free. Because when you do, the power of your life will reverberate in history. Bless you guys.